Hello, friends. This is Alia Jamal, the love coach, and we are meeting for another love circle. And today we are talking about nurturing self-trust. One of the foundational piece when it comes to having a solid relationship with yourself is trust. When we look at trust and when you ask yourself, do I trust myself? Most of us will say, oh, yeah, of course, I trust myself. I trust myself for this. I trust myself for that. For the sake of this conversation, we are going to become very, very, very honest. Only then we can get to the deeper layers and we can see where things are still missing, aspects of us that are still seeking to be healed. When we look at love, trust in a relationship, sometimes we think we trust the people that we love. But if you really dig deeper, recently maybe you got into a relationship, you'll notice there was something about that person that you trusted them. Maybe you came from the same background, maybe you went to the same school, and then that developed into love. For every single person, there are different things that make us trust other people. For some of us, it needs to be familiar. For some of us, it needs to be different. But in any relationship, trust comes first and then the love develops. That is when the magnetism in two people start to show up. So we are going to take the exact same thing. We are going to bring it home. If you claim that you love yourself, then there must be a solid foundation of trust. If the foundation of trust is weak, the love you have for yourself needs more work. I'm going to take you through 17 symptoms of lack of self-trust. So it's up to you. How willing are you to be honest and really go deeper within yourself and see where are those parts that still need some love from you, that still need some healing from you, where you can develop more trust and eventually more love for yourself. Before we even get into that, why trust is so important? Why do we even want to build trust, whether it's within ourselves or in a different relationship? Trust is what makes us lean on another person. Trust is what brings certainty within us. Trust is what makes us feel like somebody is there. I am not alone. And when we are dealing with trust on ourselves, we want to feel like I got my back. I will always be there. I am not going to abandon myself. Even if the whole world abandons me, I will not abandon myself. And one of the things we habitually do is abandon ourselves. When something is not going right, we turn against ourselves. And we think that is a good thing to do. That is the most toxic thing we can do to ourselves. The past so-called mistakes that we have made, the mistakes that we have not forgiven ourselves for, the unconscious dialogue in our mind is, since you chose that person and that person betrayed you, I cannot trust you any longer to make a right choice. And that is where we find it hard to trust other people. But in truth, we are finding it hard to trust ourselves. That if someone betrays us one more time, we'll be okay. And when that is left unhealed, open, it only attracts all kind of bugs and unhealthy thoughts and behaviors within us. That is when we start to micromanage ourselves. We start to micromanage other people. We become the controlling person in a relationship. And then we are like, well, it's not my fault. I was betrayed in my past relationship. Of course, I'm going to be so hyper vigilant. We start to blame our own unhealthy behavior on outside situation and circumstances, but the problem is within us. The problem is we didn't heal that trust with ourselves once it got broken. Once we did put ourselves on the back burner. I see this with a lot of moms. They have been home for a very long time, and then they are like, I think I have lost all my confidence to go back into workplace. It's not that they have lost confidence, they don't trust themselves. Because most likely, as us parents, speaking from experience, when we sacrifice ourselves for the sake of our kids, for the sake of our family, we forget a tiny thing, and that is to sit with ourselves and have a conversation with ourselves and ask permission from ourselves. So if you're a parent and you ditched your career, you took care of the family, and you never asked permission from yourself, hey, I'm about to make this decision. Are you okay with it? You lost your trust with yourself. And now that part of you think you don't have your back. So how can you go into the world and claim you know all these things or you have all these skills when you betrayed yourself? We don't pay attention to how these tiny behaviors have a long-term psychological impact and behavioral impact. And then we blame the first thing that we see. And the first thing we'll see, well, I chose to be a stay-home parent. But it's not that you chose to be a stay-home parent, it's you chose not to have a conversation with yourself because you didn't know. You didn't know. Now you know. Start having a conversation with yourself before you make any decision. I will quickly share a personal aspect here, and then we'll go deeper into this conversation. Recently, I had to make a decision, and there was a lot of fear involved. A lot of fear. I will say my worst nightmare type of fear was right in my face. And I also knew that, this is an opportunity. I get to grow through it. And for me, growth is more important than staying stagnant in one place and having everything be same. What I did, I sat with myself. I have different aspect of me. I asked my infant within me. The infant started crying and said no. I asked the 5-year-old within me, and she said no. I asked the teenager within me. She was like, maybe. I asked the 20-year-old within me, uh 28-ish, late 20s, and she was like, I don't even know what to say. I was like, okay, that means I don't trust myself in that area. I don't trust myself that I can actually make this decision and it would be the right decision for all parts of me, the infant within me, the little child within me, the teenager, and all those different stages. So I started having conversations with them. What do they want? What is it that I need to do? How can I reassure them that I will not abandon myself or them? As I started taking counsel from them, and I started moving in that direction, slow, with a pause, being very careful, being very aware. It took only 3 weeks for the infant to get on board, for the little child to get on board, for the teenager to get board, and also for the late 20s to get on board. Those are 4 different aspects within me. I could have made the decision out of just trying to prove myself. Well, I can make any decision. I just have to go through these 4 questions and I can make any decision. I could have gone that way, but you know what I would have left open, the space for somebody else to get between me and those different aspects of me. When we leave that space open, when we are not checking in within ourselves, and we just want to prove that we are worthy or we can do something. That's why I personally don't like to use the word deserve, or I want to prove something. That is our ego. When we go that way, we betray ourselves. But when we stay in touch with all different parts of us, when we are patient, when we slowly move through it, when we allow ourselves time to heal and build that trust again, that is when we can truly be congruent, aligned within ourselves, and we can show up as our whole selves. So all those parts of me, they needed time to start trusting me, because most likely when I made that decision last time, it didn't turn out to be good. So they had all the right to not trust me. But moving through it, I was able to build trust with those parts of me, and I can show up more whole in whatever adventure I am moving forward. So I just wanted to share that little bit of story to show you how important it is to build that trust within ourselves. It is really going to be an asset for the rest of your life. So trust is built within first 12 months of our life, when we are seeking anything, whether our diaper needs to be changed or we are hungry and someone comes and picks us up. That is when we feel somebody got me. I can cry and somebody will show up. I am in control. That is what trust is. I can depend on myself. I can depend on my cry. I can get help. I can speak up. That is trusting myself that no matter what happens, I'll be okay. But when for some whatever reason the child does not get that attention in the first 12 months of their life, they grow up to be a person who doesn't really trust them. And we'll go through some symptoms so you can see what those symptoms are, and then we'll get into how can you build a deeper trusting relationship with yourself, how can you nurture it every single day. And just to even share it right now, universal truths are very simple. Our brain makes everything complicated. So when we start talking about trust, you might be like, oh my God, that is so hard to trust other people, so hard to trust myself. How am I going to do it? It's very easy, my friend. It's very, very, very easy. Betraying yourself is very hard, but trusting yourself is very easy. Manipulating yourself is so hard because you have to go through a lot of hoops to do that. But loving yourself is so much easier. So let's dig into what are the 12 signs that you might see in yourself that indicate that you might not trust yourself as much as you thought you do. Now, this is a place where it's up to you to be honest and open and be willing to really allow this information to get in, and don't try to judge yourself. It's okay if you discover today that you don't trust yourself as much as you thought you do, because that is good. Now you get to build it. We are not here to be really good students, or we are not here to be like, the perfect human. We are here to grow. Life will give you an opportunity to grow every single day. Grow every single day, even if you grow a little bit. When I started my journey in 2020, especially with building trust, out of these 21, I believe I had already like healed only like 4 or 5. The rest, I had to work on them. At this point, I have still I believe 1 or 2 left that I'm still working on. It's always work in progress, because once you get to this level, there's always another level. Always challenge yourself, always move forward in your growth. Okay, here we go. The first one is, I have a hard time recognizing, understanding, or believing in my innate value and worth. So when you look at yourself, you're like, I'm not as good as that person. Internally, you're thinking about yourself that way. That is a sign you don't trust yourself. I accept the negative self-rejecting messages that I received in childhood. If you're still living with that negative self-talk from your childhood, lack of self-trust. I think that I could have done something to change or stop the childhood abuse, neglect, or abandonment that I experienced. This is a very common one for kids who experience especially sexual trauma or some kind of other physical form of trauma. They have very hard time forgiving themselves. So there's a gap between them and their child self. So that is lack of self-trust. I do things to prove myself and my value to others. We all have been there. And all the people who call themselves high achievers actually live there. And they have very hard time realizing and understanding that is a sign of lack of trust. Because as a society, we worship high achievers. We all want to be high achievers. But deep down in their psychology, there is a lack of trust when we are doing it to prove to other people. So there is a difference. There are those who are leading and living their soul, path. And I think those people are producing way more than so-called high achievers. And those are also the people who don't call themselves high achievers. But when we are so gung-ho about the label, I'm a high achiever, most likely we are doing it to prove something to somebody, and that somebody might be invisible. So that is a lack of self-trust. I try to control everything around me so I can feel safe. When you find yourself micromanaging yourself, another, this person should behave this way, that person should behave that way, sign of low self-trust. I compare the choices I have made to those made by others. I minimize or deny my own needs. That would be all the moms out there who would eat last and they will let everybody else eat. It's sometimes difficult to recognize or tell the truth. I'm unable to find or value my own voice. That is when we hold ourselves back. We feel like what I have to say is not of value. My friend, whether you are an active leader, a thought leader, or you think you're nobody, whatever you have to say is important. World needs to hear it because you're just as important as maybe like, the highest leader that you worship and praise. You're just as important. We all are same. We're just living different stories. We're playing different characters in this amazing, beautiful planet of ours. But you're just as important as the most eloquent speaker that you know of. So whatever you have to say, whether it's to express yourself, whether it's to share your feeling, or whether in terms of your opinion, it is important. We just want to make sure we are doing it from a place of love and light and not try to prove ourselves, judge other people, or create chaos. That is where we will end up going into darkness, and that is definitely a lack of self-trust. I am unable or unwilling to recognize or challenge my self-sabotaging or self-destructive thoughts, beliefs, and behavior patterns. So that is when we are stuck in that self-sabotage pattern, but we also think we don't need help. That is when we are stuck in that cycle. We keep thinking I can fix myself, or we keep denying that we need help of any sort or support of any sort. That is when we are stuck in low self-trust cycle. I'm prone to catastrophizing. I am filled with the constant expectation of failure, disappointment, or betrayal. When your mind goes to worst case scenario, and my mind loves to go there, it will go there with the speed of light, and then I stop it. Nope, not going there. It took me a long time to build that control over my thoughts. But when we don't have that control over our thoughts, and our thoughts are just running all over the place, when we go into worst case scenario, we are actually trying to create safety within us. When we don't have solid foundation of self-trust, we don't feel safe within us. In our inner environment, we don't feel safe. We feel that I need to do something, or I need to think something, or I need to think of an outcome so I can feel safe. One time I was traveling with a family member, and we were going to somebody's house. And generally what my mind would do when we are going somewhere, it would always try to fill the gap, how it's going to be, how those people are going to be, how they will talk to me, how I will talk to them, and how it would be. It wanted to fill the gap all the time. And this is the first time I was going to, to meet that family. And I did not let my mind go there. It was so uncomfortable. And I kept pulling it back, pulling it back. Just that little bit of effort helped me trust myself more. Because now I don't need to know what the outcome is going to be, because no matter what happened, I'll be okay. Because I got my back. I am not turning against me. That is self-trust. The whole world can turn against me, but I cannot turn against me. That is self-trust. And when we have that solid foundation, we are not concerned about how someone is going to talk to me, how I'm going to talk to them, whether they'll like me, whether I'll like them. We are not concerned with those tiny details, and we actually truly get to enjoy our communication, our connection with other people, and our relationship. I mentally relive or rehash past traumas or adverse events. Again, that is a way to seek control. That is when we want to feel safe. Let me go to the past. It's familiar. I'll live the whole crazy day all over again, and I will feel I'm in control. Again, we are creating that sense of safety within us, which is supposed to exist. I got my back. I engage in negative and harmful self-talk, and my negative ego takes control. Number 14 is I participate in self-sabotaging or compulsive repetitive behavior that creates shame, guilt, or self-punishment. So ever had a tub of ice cream for 7 days in a row, and then the scale shows you're 10 pounds heavier, and then you're beating yourself about why did you do that? So that is a lack of self-trust. I break the promise that I have made to myself. This is a big one. This is a big one. When we promise ourselves we'll do something. After I learned this, I stopped promising myself or other people. I started always leaving a little bit of wiggle room. So the little kid within me, my inner child, who's watching me, and I am her parent at this point, she would know that when mommy says something, she will do it. And if she's not committing to it, there is a wiggle room. So if she doesn't do it, I'm not going to hold her hostage or hold that situation against her. Once I became mindful of that, it's very rare that I will say the word, I promise I'll do it. I'll definitely do it. Whenever I want to do something, I look at my life. I'm a single parent. I do have a very flexible, fluid schedule. So I give myself a range of time. Even if I'm talking to somebody, I give myself extra time. If I think I can do it in 1 hour, I'll tell them I'll do it within next 24 to 48 hours. So I'm giving myself that extra room. Because if I don't do when I said I will do, the little kid within me is watching. And she's not going to trust me because I don't keep my words. We all know that, our parents at some point just told us, yeah, I'll take you there, just to shut us up, right? We all have experienced it. After that, we felt heartbroken and we found it hard to trust the next time parents said that. We always kept like, most likely it's not going to happen. We develop that behavior so we don't feel disappointed. And most of us are living in our adult life with that wounded child trust within us. And only you can repair it, my friend. Um, I fail to keep the commitments and or arrangements that I have made with others, a big one. I find it difficult to finish what I start. So that is the one I'm still working on. And for me, the excuse I can give to myself, it's tied to my human design. I'm a starter, not a finisher. But I told myself, this is the level of development I like to be. No design, no horoscope, no nothing can control me. I control myself. I create my destiny. I will make sure I get to be the person who finishes everything she starts. And I am definitely getting better at it every single day. I hold in anger, resentment, or ill will towards other, or I speak negatively about those who I feel have hurt or harmed me. So this is where we love to complain. We love to complain and talk about how bad this person is, how bad they treated me, or how bad the situation is. When we are complaining, that is a symptom we don't trust ourselves. And every single one of us have complained about something or somebody to somebody. So that is where we become, it's moment of becoming very honest and see, do I want to build the next level of trust within myself, or do I just want to let it be wherever it is right now? I didn't deny or minimize my power of choice. So that is when we let other people choose things for us. Definitely exercise your power of choice. I defer to others, allowing them to make choices and decisions for me. So that is when we want to someone else to do it on our behalf, someone else to take this decision on our behalf. I'll share with you all a very interesting thing about my culture. So I come from a South Asian culture. I'm a born Pakistani. So some of you have might heard this concept of arranged marriage. And to me, that concept was always very interesting. We're the biggest decision of our life, we are deferring it to our parents. I never wanted to be part of that. And thank God I never was part of that. But to me, just even as a kid, it was so interesting to observe that people were getting married because somebody picked somebody for them. And then when things were going wrong, then they just blame someone else. And it really made me think, in a very, very young age, it made me think how these people are blaming their parents for making that choice for them. And how would it feel to make that choice and own that choice? So I went that route. It went amazing. I definitely trust myself more to make that choice again. I thought that was just a very, very cool thing that is in my culture where um, it's such a big sign of lack of self-trust. But nobody really looks at it because the whole culture has a lot of toxic elements to it. And that is for another conversation. I rely heavily on my physical senses to make decisions, and I'm often disconnected from my instinct, intuition, and inner guidance. So that was the last one. Trust is an inside job. You cannot trust with your eyes. You cannot trust with your senses, with your physical senses, because trust is something you cannot see. Let's say you just met somebody and maybe you're going to do a business deal with them. Your eyes would take time to build that trust. You have to see they're keeping their words, they have the money, all that, right? But your intuition can tell you right away. Is there an energetical match? Can I trust this person or not? Your intuition can guide you right away, but your intuition will be activated only if you are trusting yourself. Another cool thing about trust is when we are in trust, energy of trust, trusting ourselves, our heart opens. When we go into fear, when we go into controlling, our heart closes. So just getting into the habit of building trust within yourself is going to be such an amazing asset for you. Now, how do we build trust? We build trust with doing something tiny, so tiny, very, very tiny. And that could be brushing your teeth every single day and telling yourself, I'm doing it because I trust myself. I personally weigh myself every morning. That is my way of telling myself, since I'm doing this every day, I trust myself. There's a very small ritual, 5-second ritual I do before I go to bed. I have done it every single day, no matter what. I tell myself I'm doing this because I trust myself. That is how you can actively start building that muscle. But then go back to these 21 things that we talked about. Pick one. You don't have to pick 21. Pick one, maximum pick 3. Start working towards them. When you're in a conversation and you're thinking something, but you're not speaking it because you're like, well, I don't know if I'll be accepted, if I'll be rejected, if this will happen or that will happen. When you're going in all the what ifs, right? When you're going in all those what ifs, push yourself to say it. It'll be hard the first time, maybe a little easier the second time. Push yourself to say it. When you go to a restaurant and everybody's like, hey, what do you want to order? And you're like, you can just order something for me. Push yourself to look at the menu and order something for yourself. When you're worried about how other people are going to take you, or what if they reject you, or somebody actually reaches out to you and they're like, hey, there's all these horrible things about you. When that thing happened, something like that happened, in that moment, sit with yourself and reassure yourself, I am with you here right now. And as long as I'm here with you right now, you're okay. I got you. We do that kind of things for our friends. But my friends, it's so important to do that for ourselves. Sit with yourself. I have personally been through moments where I was standing all by myself. Even the family didn't like the choices I was making, and of course nobody else liked the choices I was making. And there are moments in my life I stood tall, I stood alone. But those are the moments I had a conversation with myself. I told myself, Alia, I will never abandon you. Whatever decision you make, wherever it will take us, I am with you. I will never judge you. I will not take you in the guilt trip. I'm not going to bash you. I accept you with all the choices you're making. That is self-trust, my friends. When you have that, you can go through the biggest changes in your life, whether it's loss of job, loss of a relationship, loss of a loved one to death or disease or whatever, loss of your friends decided to ditch you, maybe your parents decided to ditch you. No matter what happened, when you can hold space for yourself and when you can say to yourself, hey, no matter what happens, I am here for you. That is when you'll be able to love yourself on such a deeper level, and you will not be seeking that from outside of you. You will not be seeking that validation from outside of you. So you know what's going to happen? One, your heart will be open. You will attract the abundance that already belongs to your soul. But most importantly, you will start living at the path of your soul instead of your ego. And that, my friend, is a recipe for a very beautiful and easy life, not a difficult one. That is a code to enter into a different dimension, trusting yourself, nurturing it every single day. I trust that this conversation has enlightened you and it has given you some stuff to think about. And if it has brought up stuff that you're ready to deal with, you can always reach out to me. You can go to my website, aliajamalcoaching.com. You can book a consultation, and I would love to be your guide to help you heal your trust with yourself and open your heart so all the world get to benefit from the light that you're holding within you. That is all for today. I'm sending you so much love. Bye.